Good morning, Shafe. Oh man, I woke up at 5:30 this morning. Again, I had a headache. I keep waking up in the morning with a headache. I don't know why. I wake up in the morning. I told my wife about it, and she's like, "It's probably because you're dehydrated." She's probably right, actually, because I drink coffee, and then last night I went to bed. Right before I went to bed, I drank I had like a vodka with some juice and some tonic. It was really good. It's just, it dehydrates you. That's what alcohol does to me. I mean, alcohol does it to everybody, but I have a pretty sensitive body when it comes to certain things. Alcohol being one of them. It doesn't really seem to matter how much I drink. I have pretty bad like adverse reaction to alcohol the next morning. Just one drink. One drink and I could get a hangover in the morning. It's not like this awful, like, I think I'm going to puke my brains out hangover. It's just like, like somebody came up and whacked you in the headache. It's just dehydration. I'm not drinking enough water. I'm not drinking enough things that hydrate me. I'm drinking coffee during the day. I'm drinking alcohol at night. It's just this, and it's not like I drink alcohol every day. I really don't. I have maybe like one drink a week, but which is really healthy for you, actually. Wine, especially, although I don't drink wine, but they say wine is good for the antioxidants and all that stuff. But anyway, that's not what I'm making this video about. Staying on the topic of child abuse and what we can do about it. Boy, what a contentious issue. What a difficult thing to navigate through. I mean, it really is. Where do you draw the line? When do you get involved and when do you not get involved? Because let's talk about the pros and cons of getting involved and the pros and cons of not getting involved. Pros and cons of getting involved. Obviously, the pro to getting involved when you witness what is pretty clear child abuse. The pro is that you can actually help the child, right? You can pull the child out of that situation, a situation that they don't deserve to be in. I mean, what did the child do to ask to be born into this shitty situation with a shitty mother, shitty father, shitty guardian, shitty whoever? What did they do to ask to be born in? Nothing. They did nothing to deserve it. Some kids are just lucky, like my kids. I'm born into a fairly happy household with loving parents, supportive atmosphere where, I mean, my kids are on the brink of being spoiled. I mean, especially with what my wife does for them. I mean, she just, whatever the damn kids want, she gets it for them. I can't tell you how many packages come to the house, Amazon packages. And I'm like, what is this? Like, oh, the kids wanted some new sunglasses because it's like the cool new style, blah, blah. I'm like, in addition to the other 4 pairs of sunglasses they have, you had to get them these? Really? Well, it's no big deal. It only costs $15. That's my wife talking. It only costs $15. Okay. And then, yeah, it only costs $15, but it all adds up. What about the new batting gloves that you got him the other day that he just couldn't live without? And then the new bracelet and the new Crocs that you got him like last week, and the new this, and it's just this constant avarice. Constant. I have to have a new this, a new that. Constant. But anyway, balance is very important in life. You don't want to spoil the living shit out of your kids, and you don't want to deprive them to the point where they feel neglected. But getting back to the point, sorry, I digress. I digress quite often. But my kids are lucky. They're very lucky. I mean, compared to the childhood I had, which I wasn't raised in Afghanistan in a garbage pile with bacteria crawling all over me, and I wasn't raised in that kind of a situation, but I think I was raised in a fairly deprived situation, and I know I was raised in an abusive situation, and I was raised in a situation where I was neglected, just because there were so many of us, and my father wasn't around, and when my father did come around, he would just basically make fun of us, criticize us, all that to get back at my mom, right? He was angry at my mom because he thinks that she ruined his life. And instead of literally taking it out on her, he would make comments toward us to get back at her indirectly, I guess. It's just like, welcome to your life where you're the punching bag, Other people get to take out their aggressions on you because of their failures and their frustrations, instead of them punching themselves in the face, or them, facing their own failures. They basically throw their sins onto you. That's why I have such a soft spot in my heart for children who are abused. And I think in the last video I made, I said children who are abused for things they didn't deserve. But I mean, that's like the redundancy of all redundancies. What kid deserves to be abused? That's the definition of abuse: getting a punishment that you didn't deserve. That's what abuse is, and that's where we fail to draw the line, unfortunately, sometimes, is that we don't, nowadays, it's like the pendulum has swung way too far to the other side, where any type of punishment at all is considered abuse to some people. Well, that's obviously not the case. I mean, some punishment is deserved, clearly deserved, I mean, what are you going to do when a kid does something that they're not supposed to do? What are you going to do? Encourage them to keep doing the shit that they're not supposed to do? Or don't punish them at all? Act like they did nothing wrong? Of course not. Of course not. But what you don't do is you call them a fucking piece of shit, slap them across the face, push them down the stairs, tell them they're an idiot, I mean, it's like, balance is everything. Balance is everything when it comes to that kind of stuff. You as a parent have to discriminate. You have to decide what is a healthy punishment that fits the crime, if you will. A punishment that fits the crime. You have to be just. That's what justice is. And injustice is just as much not punishing for somebody for something that they did wrong as it is having too severe of a punishment for something that somebody did wrong, right? You step on my foot, I cut your foot off. That is injustice. And you step on my foot and I do absolutely nothing is equally injustice. But again, getting back to the main subject of this video, which is where do you draw the line? So the pros and cons of doing something and the pros and cons of doing nothing. Again, you do something, you could potentially take the child out of that situation. If you take doing something to its extreme, right? I'm going to call CPS, I'm going to call the cops, I'm going to whatever. Take the child out of that situation, right? I know I keep going back to this movie, but like Forrest Gump, right? Jenny got taken from her father and went to live with her grandmother because her father was abusing her. That's a good thing, right? Jenny got taken out of an abusive situation. That is a good thing. But then you hear of other situations where CPS gets involved or whatever, and they fuck things up big time. They take kids away from parents who the parents didn't deserve for their kids to be taken away from them. There's a I think it's on Netflix, like Take Care of Maya or whatever it was. You guys have to watch that movie. It's unbelievable. The story of this girl who had this very rare condition, and nobody knew. They took her to several doctors. Nobody knew what to do for her. Nobody. And then they finally found this doctor who knew exactly what was wrong with her. The doctor said, we got to give her ketamine, which is a pretty potent drug. gave her ketamine. Ketamine wasn't working. And he's like, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to give her basically a huge infusion of ketamine, where she goes into a coma, basically a drug-induced coma, to get her over this thing. This condition she had, it was turning her feet inwards. She was experiencing horrific pain in her extremities everywhere, like burning sensations that you and I just are not familiar with. Like, if you touch her, if you barely touched her with the tip of your finger, it felt like you were shoving a knife into her. Like that type of sensation. So this doctor said, look, this ketamine infusion that I'm recommending, you can't get it in the United States because they don't allow it here. You got to go down to Mexico to get it done. So she goes down to Mexico. Her family takes her down to Mexico to get this infusion, to get the, and the short of it all is that it worked. It worked. Her feet went back to normal. She was able to, she couldn't even raise her hands above her head before that. After that, she could do so many other things. Like, she wasn't in a wheelchair anymore. She was walking around. For all intents and purposes, she was healed. It worked. It straight up worked. And then she had a relapse. And for whatever reason, the parents couldn't get her into the regular doctor that she would normally see, so they took her to this hospital. Take her into the hospital, and the hospital's like, what's going on here? And she's like, oh, I'm experiencing these problems. And the mother was basically like, okay, look, this is what she needs. She needs ketamine, and we can't get a hold of her doctor or whatever. And so can you just give her ketamine? And the hospital's like, this sounds like child abuse to me. They're giving this girl ketamine, which is a really potent drug. It's like, I don't know. They looked at it like it was like cocaine or heroin or whatever. They look at ketamine like it's a street drug. So the doctors and the nurses at the hospital were basically like, we feel like this is an abuse situation where the mother is trying to get like a narcotic type of a drug for the daughter. So we're going to call CPS. CPS comes in there. They straight up are like, yeah, this looks like child abuse. We're going to take custody of the girl. And they let the parents know, like, you can't see your daughter anymore. The parents are like, what? Like, you can't see your daughter anymore. You can talk to her on the phone once a week, but you can't see her. We're taking custody of your daughter. We're basically throwing her in jail, but she's basically staying in the hospital, but you can't visit her anymore. And only doctors and nurses can visit her. And we're going to assign a caseworker to her. And the parents are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, she wasn't raised in a shitty neighborhood with shitty parents who abused her. Her dad was like a businessman. Her mom was like in the medical field. She lived in a nice neighborhood. She was never deprived of anything, this girl, And in fact, she had parents who would do anything they could to make sure that their daughter was okay. But, CPS felt differently. Well, long story short, the mother ended up killing herself because she went, 5 months without being able to see her daughter. The judge actually ruled that the mother wasn't even allowed to be in the same room with her daughter. The mother was like, I just want to give my daughter a hug. Can you please let me give my daughter a hug? And the judge literally said, no, sorry, you can't give your daughter a hug. And so the mother ended up killing herself. Now, was the mother right to kill herself? Of course not. Of course not. But, eventually the father got back custody of his daughter, and now the mother's dead. And now they're trying to sue the state for what they did to them. And the state, is the state of Florida in this particular case, they did everything they could to keep the trial from happening. They would prolong this and delay this, and, they had the best lawyers that money could buy, and the taxpayers were paying for their lawyers and all that shit. And, anyway, that's where justice completely fails, right? So that's the cons of trying to get involved in a situation where you don't understand the context. And so, I mean, this ties into so many things. It ties into, it has loose ties with abortion, right? You say, well, how can you connect those two dots together? Well, here's how you connect it. People say, well, you're killing a child, so I'm going to stop you from killing a child. And what does the person what's the woman who is pregnant say? Oh, well, this is my body. You can't tell me what I can and can't do with my body. The abortion activist says it ain't your body. There's another body growing inside of you. You're killing a person. Going back and forth. This is my body. No, it's not your body. Yes, it is my body. No, it's not your body. It's a different body. Blah, blah, blah. How do you define what my body is? Blah, 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 blah. Well, again, this is my child. I can do whatever I want with my child. You're taking away my rights as a mother. I can call my child a fucking piece of shit, slap my child, kick my child, push my child down the stairs, where people are like, no, you can't do all that kind of stuff. It's not your property. This back and forth. Where do you draw the line of what you let a parent do to another human being? I don't care if it's your child. You're abusing another human being. Where do you draw the line? Where do you let a parent call their own shots? Where do you let a parent make their own decisions on how they're going to raise their kids? When does the state get involved? When do other people get involved? And when do they not get involved? And I think it's a point of contention. It's a very, very difficult thing to determine. Taking a child away from their mother sometimes is necessary, but it must be given such incredible consideration before something like that is actually done. But if you leave it up to authority figures, those authority figures, just like in that documentary on Netflix, they can abuse their power. They can make bad decisions out of ignorance and do the wrong thing. So how do you reconcile that? You're actually giving power to other people to take somebody's child away, which is necessary in some cases and is not necessary in other cases. But you're giving these people the power to decide when it's necessary and when it's not. And the bottom line is you can't trust certain people to make those decisions because they make the wrong decision. It's a very difficult thing to navigate. The human version of justice is just... it's not real justice. We try to wield our power, and we don't always mess it up. Sometimes we get it right. Lots of times we don't. And the reason why we don't is because we don't understand the context, right? We don't get it. Just like I was talking about in my last video, where if you see something, say something. If you see something, say something. On the surface, that sounds really great because it does protect people. It does. There have been instances where someone has been abducted, they've been forced into sex slavery, and somebody out in the public noticed something that just wasn't right. There's something that's not right about that girl, the way she's interacting with the adults that she's with. There's something wrong about this. I don't know what it is. Something's telling me that something's wrong. I'm going to call the cops. And the cops find out that she was abducted and she's forced into sex slavery, and they actually rescue her from that situation. That's when, if you see something, say something, works. Other times, people look at a situation and they say, that looks like abuse to me. I'm seeing something, I better say something. And I'll give you an exact example. You want to know a perfect example other than the one I just told you about on Netflix? My own family, my own family. My brother married into a family where his sister-in-law, so his wife's sister, has severe autism, really bad autism, like low functioning autism, whereas she can't process certain things. She can't deal with her emotions. When my brother's wife's sister, so my brother's sister-in-law, when she gets upset, she doesn't know how to deal with it. And I've been over there before where the girl got upset and she actually punched me really hard in the back. And I had no idea it was coming. No idea. I was just sitting there on the couch, and we were just like eating, hors d'oeuvres and stuff and just talking, and all of a sudden, boom! Out of nowhere, this girl just punched me in the back. I was like, oh, what the fuck? And then everybody jumped on her. Like, stop it, leave him alone. I was like, what did I do? And they're like, you didn't do anything. Don't worry about it. She just decided in her mind that you were the enemy for a second, and she just went up to you and punched you for whatever reason. And I've seen her do other things like that. I've seen her walk up and just like grab somebody's drink and spill it all over them on purpose and then run away. People are like, what the hell? What is she doing? What's wrong with her? I heard a story about her where she got so mad because like her favorite thing to do, and she was like 30 years old at the time, mind you. She wasn't a kid, but she was a kid in her brain. Like she acted like a 6-year-old. Her favorite thing to do was to go to Wendy's, and she was misbehaving, and they're like, that's it. You're not going to Wendy's with us. We were going to take you to Wendy's and get you a Frosty and a bacon double cheeseburger or whatever, but now you're not going to get it. Well, she stomps upstairs and grabs the TV. Now, this is back in the day when you didn't have flat screen TVs. This is back in the day when you had those gigantic fucking just big ass cube TVs. She picks up this TV off the dresser and just boom, slams it on the floor, and the TV breaks, So that's the kind of autism that this girl had. The reason why I'm telling you this, I'm trying to tell you the context of the story. So they were on a road trip, and they had her in the car with them. And the mother was like, okay, I'm going to take her. She has to go to the bathroom. So they go in the bathroom, and, she needs help. She can't go to the bathroom by herself. She needs help. She needs someone to help her, put the toilet seat down and make sure to put especially if you're in a public bathroom, put a toilet, like a toilet seat cover, because it's a nasty bathroom. And all this. So the mother's in the bathroom with her. Her name is Kimmy. I don't mind giving you her first name. Her name is Kimmy. So the mother's in the bathroom with Kimmy, trying to help her. And Kimmy just decides, like, I'm not going to let my mom help me. So Kimmy starts, like, pushing her mom and elbowing her mom and punching her mom. And her mom's like, God damn it, Kimmy, will you stop it? It's like slams her down on the toilet. Kimmy's like, fuck, she's like, just stop it, So anyway, Kimmy's being extremely difficult, but the mother's been dealing with Kimmy for 30 years now. And there's a struggle in the bathroom, right, inside the stall. Well, somebody was in the next stall in the bathroom, in the public bathroom. The person in the stall comes out. She looks at the mother and Kimmy, struggling as they get out, and she's like yelling at, like, wash your hands. Kimmy's like, no, I don't want to wash your goddamn hands right now, right? She's just getting frustrated with her daughter, right? So this other person who notices the struggle calls what? The cops, and says, there's an abusive situation going on here. They leave the rest area, go down the highway, and they're heading to Indiana or wherever they're heading. All of a sudden, woo, cop pulls up behind them. We got a call, there was an abusive situation going on here, blah, blah. And they're like, no, look, Kimmy is autistic. She's like, she's a low functioning autistic. Like, yes, we get frustrated with her sometimes, but, all the aggression was on Kimmy's side. Kimmy was the one pushing mom and punching mom and hitting mom, and mom was just defending herself and trying to block the punches and just like, okay, fine. So, the cop had a good level head on his shoulders. He realized what the situation was, and he let them go on. But this person didn't understand the context. This person was like, this is clearly, to them, this is clearly an abusive situation. I see something, I'm going to say something, I'm going to get involved. Well, imagine if that cop didn't know what the hell he was looking at. And imagine if the cop went the other way and said, no, this still seems like an abusive situation to me. I'm going to, order that the parents come with me down to the station, and an idiot cop takes them to an idiot judge who decides, yeah, you guys need to have this child taken away from you. And yeah, I mean, you say, well, what are the chances that could happen? Well, it does happen. It does happen. It does happen. The state makes decisions all the time. That Netflix documentary showed several examples of people who went to jail for 15 years for child abuse when they actually didn't abuse their child. The state oversteps its bounds. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys have stories. So given that, where do you draw the line? When do you get involved? It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, basically. The human version of justice just fails miserably, unfortunately. All right. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.